Hello and welcome to a review here of Game of Thrones. That's right, you clicked on the video, so you saw the title and the thumbnail. We're gonna do a review of the first episode, Dragonstone, of Season 7 of Game of Thrones. Now, this is a spoiler review, so consider yourselves warned on all things spoilers for Episode 1 of Season 7. With that being said, let's get into the review. So let's just be honest here. This episode is an episode of setup. Yes, when it first airs, you have the whole previously on segment of this episode, this 60-minute episode, and that kind of it catches you up on everything. But that the first scene is pretty much, in my opinion, the only scene where the most actually happens. As far as action, yes, Jon Snow and what happens at Winterfell. There is some stuff that actually happens, but for the most part, this is a setup episode, meaning they're setting you up for season 7 and probably season 8 as far as where everybody is and what their goals are. What their goals are for this season or for these next. There's only 12 episodes after this one, so this episode really feels like a setup episode in my opinion. But the first scene, before even the whole Peter Dinklage thing, before the theme song and in the opening title credits and things like that, is Arya Stark, and she doesn't impersonate, but she becomes Walter Frey, and she kills all the Freys. Now, this scene is really, really awesome in my opinion, because we rarely see, I don't think we've maybe ever seen a scene or even an episode in this, other than maybe Battle of the Bastards, where you had a character, a good character in Arya Stark, taking out a lot of bad dudes. I mean, the Freys betrayed them, the Red Wedding, and then Arya Stark comes back and kills all of the Freys. It's a very cool, almost like Godfather 2-esque scene, because if you know, in Godfather 2 you have the scenes with Robert De Niro where he's just going and he's killing everybody who's in his way of becoming a Don. And this is pretty much what Arya's doing. She went, the Freys killed her family. She was like, hey, should have killed them all. And then poisons them all. They all die. She walks out of there like a boss. Moving on, then after the credits, you have the White Walkers. Now, this is really where the episode kind of was like, okay. Because this is where the episode gets into setup, in my opinion, because you just see like the snow. You see north of the wall, and then you see snow. You see a White Walker, the Night King. I'm assuming it's the Night King riding on the horse, and then you just see a whole bunch of White Walkers, and then they have giant White Walkers, which is probably gonna cause a problem for the dragons because they have big old bow and arrows. So maybe if they use their bow and arrows, that could be, the downfall of the dragons for Dany. But you literally just see a bunch of White Walkers walking, and then it cuts away to Bran, and I forget the other girl's name, but that other character, the girl character who's been with Bran for this whole time, Bran and her, they come up to the wall. Bran's a three-eyed raven now, so he knows a ton of stuff, and the one of the Night's Watch is like, hey, why should I let you in? And Bran starts telling him what he's been doing, what the Night's Watch guy, what he has been doing recently, and he's like, okay, come on in. And it was just, that's another scene where it's kind of just set up, where it's just like, hey, here's Bran. He's reminding you, hey, he's a three-eyed raven. He knows a bunch of stuff. He's very powerful now, and that's where he is. Boom, great job. Then it doesn't skip, but it jumps over to Winterfell and Jon Snow and Sansa. Now they are having like a meeting with all of their allies, and Sansa's really she's questioning Jon Snow, and that's something that Jon Snow is like, hey, after the whole meeting happens, he's like, "Hey, man, maybe you shouldn't question me all that much in front of all of our allies, in front of the people, because Jon Snow now is the king in the North, and Sansa is questioning his decision um, because of the Karstarks and one other house. I forget the other house, but he Sansa wanted him to take their castles away from that family and give them to the allies who actually helped them, like Lady Mormont, I think is her name. Mormont, yeah, I believe is her name. Yeah. So Sansa wanted him to take away their castles, give them to other families, and then Jon Snow's like, hey, we gotta stop this bickering. We gotta prepare for the White Walkers, and so he wins over because he is the king of the North, and they have a really different relationship. Like the last time we saw them, they were like, "Hey man, we're glad we're doing it. We got back Winterfell. It's all good. We're happy now, but we still got more to do." In this one, it seems like Sansa's like, "Hey, you make way better. You got to be a lot smarter than our previous kings in the North, because that's why they died. That's why they got killed, because they were not making smart decisions, and then because they were too good almost. And Jon Snow is only he's mostly mainly worried about the White Walkers, as he should be. But Sansa's I like that Sansa's the one that's like, hey, there are people to the south. There are the Lannisters. Those guys are not happy with us. His Sansa's his reminder that there are other normal people who still want to kill him. Then it cuts away to Cersei and Jaime Lannister. Now, Cersei is definitely different than anything we've ever seen in Game of Thrones, except for the 10th episode of season 6, our last episode. Now she is totally without someone to anchor her, or even a weakness, it seems like, because she no longer has her children. And she's the one who's telling Jaime to just be like, you know what? Forget about them. We've got to take out our enemies. We've got to form a dynasty. And then Jaime's like, what dynasty? We ain't got no more kids. And she was like, a dynasty for ourselves. When she said that, I was like, well, it's kind of a short dynasty, so maybe it's like a few terms. But anyway, I think that these two are going to be cool, because I think Jaime knows that Cersei's a bad lady, and we know that he loves her, but look, man, Jaime, I think, in my opinion, this is speculation, this is all speculation, but I think that Jaime is going to be the one to take out Cersei. But that doesn't mean that, well, I don't know, because Arya's going after her. That's the thing. I don't know. That's the great thing about Game of Thrones, is you just don't know. But those two, it seems like Jaime's not quite afraid of Cersei. He's more cautious now of her than I think we've ever seen him, and that's a new new way to look at it from his point of view. Now, Euron Greyjoy, Cersei, I don't know if she invites him or he just comes over, but Euron Greyjoy, if you remember, he's the dude who killed Theon's father last year or last season, and he comes over and he pretty much proposes to Cersei Lannister. Now, I don't necessarily have a problem with Euron Greyjoy. I just think that he's way different now than he was when we last saw him. Because we last saw him, he was not this swashbuckling pirate like we see now. Now he's cracking jokes, he's doing one-liners. He's kind of like Tyrion now, as far as the character goes, as far as his wit. Whereas last season, the last time we saw him, he was not like that. He was pretty much just a straight dude, like we see a lot in Game of Thrones. But this guy now, he's almost a different character. He's got like a new look. He's got new clothes. He looks totally different, and he even acts totally different. I don't know where I am on that. If we didn't see him a lot, but hey, it's a different take on the character, and I didn't gravitate to him last season, but maybe because of this change in character, maybe I'll gravitate to him this season. Maybe he'll be a pretty awesome side villain, I guess you would call it. But he comes. Cersei's like, nope, and then he leaves, telling Cersei that he would give her a priceless gift. Now, I have no idea what this is. No idea at all. This could be anything. It could be. I've heard theories that it is Baratheon's son, the one that Ser Jorah, or was it Ser Jorah? The one that just rode away across the sea or whatever. I've heard theories that it could be him, but I don't see why he is such a priceless gift, because Cersei's already on the throne. Why would she want somebody else who has the rights to the throne? Unless she wants to kill him, but then that's not really priceless. That's just like, okay. But yeah, so there's a bunch of theories going around about what that gift could be. Now we get to Sam at Maester School, and Sam has it rough, guys. Sam has it really rough. He is cleaning up bedpans of some sick people, and they do not shy away from showing you what is in the bedpans. It is. I personally wasn't like, I wasn't, but I just found it like, man, this guy, he had it tough on the wall with the Night's Watch, but man, this could be worse, because it seems like nobody except for the Archmaester believes him, as far as the White Walkers and him telling them, hey, there's White Walkers, we got to take these guys out. None of them believe him, other than the Archmaester, but the Archmaester's not really helping him out. But man, I mean, Sam has it tough, and it's like, it's tough. He's there to try to find out the history, find out how the humans survived the long night, or the old long night, I guess you would call it. But yeah, Sam does get redemption, though. He steals some keys, goes into the restricted area, gets some books, finds out the dragon glass is on Dragonstone, the island, and finds out that there's a mountain of it, which is absolutely huge. If they could mine that and make a bunch of swords and things, like, if they could just mine it and get that dragon glass, and that would be so monumental to them taking out the White Walkers, because as we know, dragon glass is one of the few things that can kill them. And so, yeah, he finds that out, so he has to get that out immediately. I think he sends a raven to Jon Snow, which is pretty important, because now Jon Snow is going to be like, hey, we got to go over there, Dragonstone, going to meet up with Dany, see what's going to happen there. But finding out that there's a mountain of dragon glass on Dragonstone is absolutely massive. At this point, we jump back to Winterfell and Brienne and Tormund. You guys, they don't have a bunch of screen time, but they are so good. I mean, the Motel 6 guys are at Hotel 6. Hotel 6 guy, I think it is. Tormund, that guy is so good. Like, him and Brienne, they're not a love life, but they're a couple that everybody wants to see get together, because I don't know, they don't spend a lot of time. It's just the way that Tormund acts around her, and the way that dude acts is amazing. I mean, it's so good. When Jon Snow is having that first meeting with all of his allies, and he's like, hey, we need more people to arm the castles. And so Tormund is like, Because I'm part of the Night's Watch, and it was so good. I think that this dude Tormund is one of um, the highlights of Game of Thrones. Now, this he was definitely one of the highlights of this episode since we didn't have a lot of action. He was one of the really cool parts and really fun parts of this episode. But you have him and Brienne have a nice moment or a few moments there, and then you have Littlefinger talking to Sansa. Now, Sansa, man, Littlefinger is the same. Sansa is totally different. We saw her at the end of season 6, and we knew that she had totally changed. She's different. She's smarter. She's grown so much as a character. Now, in this episode, man, she puts down Littlefinger so fast and in such a way to where it feels like she knows exactly what Littlefinger wants every time he talks to her, and now she's not giving that to him, which is not good for Littlefinger. So maybe there could be animosity there. I don't know, but it just seems like Littlefinger tried to, Littlefinger was talking to her, and Littlefinger. Littlefinger is the one of the best players in the Game of Thrones, and Sansa was just like talk to the hand. It almost was like that, which was very interesting for me to see that and to see how different Sansa is now, and how it seems like Sansa is very intelligent as far as the Game of Thrones, and that's something that we're not used to, having a good guy be that way, because Littlefinger is maybe not kind of a good guy. But then we skip to Arya. We get back to Arya, and she is riding south on a horse, and she finds some soldiers. Yeah, this scene was one of the more interesting scenes, because it had some really cool shots where she's sitting down, she's eating some rabbit with the soldiers, and as she's looking around, the camera shows her, it looks like it's from her point of view, and it's showing the swords of the soldiers, and then it would pan over to the soldiers as if she's looking to see if she can kill all these soldiers. And it's really cool, because now, Arya is one of the coolest characters. She's one of probably the most deadly characters that we have now in Game of Thrones, and it was so cool just to see, kind of from her point of view, how she is going about taking people out. And it's really cool, because at the very end of the Arya scene, the soldiers ask her why she's going to King's Landing. Boom, she says, "I'm going to kill the queen." And then they all wait a second and then start laughing, and you just know that in the next episode, next week, next Sunday night, cannot wait that she's gonna have killed those soldiers, which is so cool. I think that Arya's Arya had a storyline that wasn't super appealing to me. If it was appealing to you, that's great, but to me, when she was kind of doing nothing on the docks and everything, it wasn't too appealing to me. But now she's one of my most interested in characters, if that makes sense. I'm the most interested in her and Bran, and seeing what those two will do. Jon Snow, yes, but more her and Bran, because they are so much different than what they were previously. Now we have the Hound, Mr. Clegane, if you will. This guy is with the Freedom Fighters, and he has some super change of heart, because if you remember, I don't remember what season it was, but if you remember back when he was escorting Arya around, if you remember back then, they found a little family of a father and a daughter, and then they helped him stay. The father told the Hound that there was some silver hidden away. The Hound killed the father and left the daughter there. We come back to that their house, and the hound is like, hey, the hound doesn't give it away, but he's like, maybe we shouldn't go in there. And they go in there, him and the freedom fighters, the followers of the Lord of Light. Um, they go in there and they find out that the little girl committed suicide in the arms of her father, which is so it's so sad, but yet it does so much to give us, like, we all understand that back then the hound was not a good dude. And now when we see the hound, see their bodies, their decomposed bodies, it's just like, oh, this dude has definitely changed for the better. And he has so much remorse for them. He even buries them, which is a great part. But when the freedom fighters are in their house, they light a fire, and then that dude with the top knot, now he has a top knot, that guy tells the hound, look into the flames. What do you see? Boom, the hound starts seeing the White Walkers. He starts seeing them coming over the wall, like, or not coming over the wall, but going around the wall where it meets the sea. He starts seeing some crazy stuff, and now it's like, okay, now the hound knows about the White Walkers, and now the freedom fighters know about the White Walkers. So what are they gonna do? It's very interesting to see all of this episode did also a really good job of telling us, or showing us and telling us what everybody knows. As far as it seems like everybody has a different piece of information, from Bran to now the Hound, and Jon Snow with what's going on in the north, and even Sam now with that mountain of dragonglass. But this was a really cool part. And then after he has this revelation through the fire, it cuts to the freedom fighters sleeping, and then one wakes up. He hears the hound digging outside. He goes outside, sees the hound digging a grave for the father and the daughter, and he helps them because he realized that the hound knew him. And this is such a cool part of the episode to me. It's such a thing to where it's way better than just telling you, because what happens is you have the character, I forget his name, but the character who has the top knot, he's pretty much like their priest, I guess. He can show you stuff in the fire, and then he brought the one-eyed dude back to life. He's that guy. He goes out there and he grabs a shovel. He starts helping him. He's like, you knew this family, didn't you? Hound says, not really. And then it's so good because it's implying that this guy, one of the freedom fighter, the episode implies, and the way it's shot, it implies, and the way he acts, it implies that he knows that the hound had something to do with their death. And it's such a good thing of showing you rather than telling you, and that's something that Game of Thrones does really well. I mean, I've always heard that good movies show you rather than tell you, and good screenplay and good things like that show you rather than tell you. And this one was such a good moment where it was like, yep, great way to shoot that, way to direct that, because it showed us rather than told us that this guy knew somewhat what happened to this family. Now we skip to Ser Jorah. We skip back to Sam, and he's like, they apparently at Old Town, or not Old Town, is it the Citadel? I think it's the Citadel, where the library is and everything like that. Wherever Sam is, I think it's the Citadel. But it cuts back to Sam, and they have like a jail, I guess, or maybe it's like a quarantine. But he's like picking up food pans, and when he picks one up, you see a hand come out, and then you hear Ser Jorah's voice. Is the mother of dragons? Is she in Westeros yet? And Sam was like, nope. And he's full of grayscale all over his arm. You see grayscale. It's like, okay, this guy needs some help. Hopefully he doesn't die. I don't know. We don't know if he's crazy or not, or if he has all of his faculties. It's a very interesting thing. He's not one of my more favorite characters in the show, but it's definitely nice to see. Hey, that's where he is. Wonder how he got there. They probably won't tell us, but it's a good way to, hey, this guy's here. Great. And finally, the last part of this episode was Daenerys Targaryen going to Dragonstone. She lands, puts her hand on the sand. There's like one line of dialogue in this entire scene with Dany, and it's a good amount of a scene. It's a good time of a scene, but I mean, it's just she's going up to Dragonstone. She goes, sits on the throne, and then is like, that's pretty good. Gets up, goes to, they have like a map room, goes to the map room. Tyrion's with her. Tyrion doesn't say a word, which is so unfortunate, but hey, I get you want to go for the aesthetic and everything. But Tyrion doesn't say a word, goes in with her into the map room. She turns around and is just like, shall we begin? And it ends right there. And that's a scene to me that maybe could, like, it's a nice ending of the episode, but it doesn't seem like a scene to end on, or a scene that Game of Thrones would normally end on. But hey, this is a new season, new way. It was definitely a setup episode, but look, this is a great episode. If you were coming into this season, you didn't know what was going to happen, what our characters were thinking, I think this is a great episode to set us up. I think this is a great starting episode, because now we only have 12 episodes left, and it feels like after this episode things are going to be happening a little bit more quickly, because we don't have, we don't have 19 more episodes. We only have 12. So I think this was a good episode because it is a setup episode, but it feels like from now on, I don't believe that we'll get the filler/setup episodes. But hey, that's my thoughts on it. I really don't have speculation as far as what's going to happen next episode or in this season, because we didn't really get a lot. I did speculate earlier about maybe Jaime Lannister being the one to kill Cersei, but then again, there is the Arya Stark. She's going to King's Landing, and she definitely has the skill and prowess to get to her. But then again, you do have the mountain, which I don't think she can take out the mountain, and I don't think she can impersonate the mountain. But hey, that's what Game of Thrones is. It is a ride, and it is one of the best, it is the best show on TV right now. And that's my thoughts. I want to know what you think, so I need you to go into the comment section down below and tell me your thoughts down there. Give me anything. Give me anything. Theories, what you thought of the episode. If you hated the episode because not much happened, hey, tell me that in the comment section down below. I want to have a discussion on this really, really amazing TV show, so please do that. And like I said, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this and want to see more videos like this in the future. And if you hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, it'll notify you every time I put up a new video. And look for me next week. I'm going to be doing the same thing, reviewing next week's episode of Game of Thrones. I cannot wait, so definitely keep your eyes out for that. And thank you for watching this one.